Welcome, my name is Jeff Stauffer, Executive Director of the Elville Center for the Creative Arts, coming to you today from the Elville Creative Studios in Annapolis, home of Greencrest Productions, LLC. We're here today for the next in our series of interviews between the Elville Center and our fine charity partners. Today I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Max Vanderbeek, music teacher in the Performing Visual Arts program and Liberal Arts programs at Wiley H. Bates Middle School here in Annapolis. He is also a professional jazz performer. Welcome, Max.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
It's a pleasure. And so, Max, we've known each other for 3.5 years, and every time that we get together, I get to know a little bit more about you. And just about an hour ago, I learned that you have performed in front of 2 presidents. Is that correct?
Thank you. Yes, I got to play in the 90s for President Bush at the time, and this was in Florida, and I played with the Florida International University Jazz Band, so we were like the music for a big event. And so it wasn't like he was right at arm's reach, but he was there in the ballroom, and I was very honored to perform for him.
So can you give me a little bit of background about yourself in general? What brought about your love of music and teaching?
Thank you so much. Well, I'm honored to be here, and I can remember as a child, my father would take out pots and pans, and we would play just a little jam on the pots and pans together. And I really didn't get involved with organized school music until really at the start of high school. And I relocated from New York. I grew up in a really interesting community outside of New York City. It was like an arts community, community. And so then when I was in 11th grade, I moved to Columbia, Maryland. My father got a position teaching film at UMBC. He was a filmmaker. And so that really propelled me when I moved to a new school. I went to Wild Lake High School in Columbia, and the band teacher there, John Buzz Jones, was very inspiring for me. And all of a sudden, it was just like something I had to do. I had to go home and play music and play percussion. It was like just a switch went on for me. And also my father, as a filmmaker, his soundtracks were very, had a lot of percussion in them. So my father was a well-known filmmaker. He passed away in 1984, but if you watch his films, his soundtracks are very, very interesting and very interesting percussion. So as a young child and boy and then young man, and I went to a lot of his film festivals. So I just heard these soundtracks and heard a lot of music and percussion. And someday I'd love to show you one of those films. They're on YouTube. But
I like that.
And so that's I have a lot of arts background. My parents met. They were ushers at Carnegie Hall, so they both met at Carnegie Hall. So I just ended up in the arts and music.
Oh, that's great. So you just have it in your background and your childhood.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And then I went to UMBC for a while, and then I transferred up to a college in New York, and really I was a percussion major and then later a music education major. So when you study music in college, you're usually either a performance major or a music education major. And so I loved both and eventually got more into music education.
That's great. Well, Max, talk to me a little bit about Bates Middle School and its students and what makes it such a special place to you.
Thank you very much. I was hired at Bates Middle School about 6 years ago, and it was a real visionary artist that started the PVA program. I don't know if you're aware of Anne Arundel County Schools, began the PVA program about maybe 7 or 8 years ago. So that would be 2010, right in that ballpark. And they brought someone who was a choreographer, a dancer and a choreographer, and had his own dance company. And his name is Ken Shkershesh. And it's a difficult name to pronounce, but he's a wonderful artist. And so he formed the PVA program and brought different people on board. And I had actually played as a musician for Ken years ago when as a musician for his dance company. So that's how we knew each other from a ways back. And so that's how I was invited to interview for Bates Middle School. And Ken actually said that the vision for Bates was, for PVA, was a chamber music model. Well, usually when you think of school band, you think of large bands like concert band. But his vision was students working in smaller groups. And we've been able to do that to some extent. I mean, we do have large ensembles also, but one of the things we really are committed to is chamber music, small groups. And Bates Middle is a really unique environment. Anne Arundel County Schools targeted Bates. They wanted to infuse it with the arts and really give it even more of a chance to succeed. So there had been some struggles with Bates prior to the PVA program, and anybody who does a little research into Anne Arundel schools would know that Bates has some challenges. And with the Arts Magnet program, it really helped balance the program there, I would say. And it brought in a lot of people because kids bused from around the county to come in there. So kids who were really excited about their studies and music and the arts came to that building. And so my teaching day is PVA classes and then non-PVA classes, which I'm equally excited about. And it's no mystery that in some schools in this county there are struggling kids that need special attention and special care and some different strategies to help them succeed. And so that's the Bates environment at a glance.
Yeah. Well, I've come to a few of your concerts over the years, and I can just see the appreciation for music that you infuse in the music students at Bates, and how much they enjoy having you as their leader, and it's just wonderful to see.
Thank you. And maybe you've heard that quote that nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So I certainly have a lot of weak sides to my teaching, but I would say one of the stronger points is that I do care for the students, and that opens up some doors. And
it certainly shows.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You mentioned some of the challenges that you as a public school music educator face on a daily basis. And how do you think, what do you think some of those are, and how do you think they can be effectively addressed in, currently and into the future, possibly?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I think a lot of it, wouldn't you agree, starts at home with, you can look at a school, but just like if you point one finger, there's three back at you. So I think, when you point a finger at the school, I think there's three back at the home and the parent. And so many parents provide a home that is encouraging of the arts, encouraging of music. We tried to be, as a parent, I have two sons, we tried to downplay television and not let television take over the evenings.
Sure.
And or video games. And so I think, so talking about the challenges in the schools, has to do with the home component, and creating a studious environment at home. And and in the schools, the secret is smaller classes, and that's the ideal. I know for me, I respond a little better in a smaller setting where I can feel heard and I can hear you. And I think when it gets too big and too social, it's harder for students. And then equipment-wise, we're very, very lucky at Bates to have met Elville Associates and Steve Elville and Jeff Stauffer. And I guess this is a good time to interject a story that I was driving home listening to WBJC, which is the classical station. And, I was just actually wondering about how I was going to try to get some better equipment for my band students, because some of the equipment needed to be refurbished, and kids like to have a shiny, newer instrument that motivates them a lot. So I was listening to the radio station, and I heard a public service announcement about Elville Associates providing instruments to school programs, new and refurbished instruments, and I couldn't believe it. I pulled over, I took my cell phone out, and I called them right away. It was about 7:30 in the morning, and Jeff answered. And right away, it's been an amazing partnership for us, and a very benevolent organization to this county and to our Bates Middle School. And so that ties back into your question of how to improve things in school music, is instruments and better quality instruments. And I'm not in any way knocking our music office, at the school board. They really work hard. Our supervisor, David Kaufman, and he is really working hard for all of us and does some amazing things and does provide instruments. And but it's really nice to have the Elville special support.
Yeah, I remember that phone call like it was yesterday. I was driving down Route 29 into the office, and I typically don't get phone calls at 7:30 in the morning. So when my phone rang, I knew it had to be an important phone call. And looking back 3.5 years or so later, obviously it was an extremely important phone call, because Bates certainly is one of our very most valued partners within the Elville Center for the Creative Arts. And I'm so glad I picked up the phone, and you were on the other end of the line. And I remember our conversation like it was yesterday, and I think just a few days later we got together and started to talk, and Steve Elville came to visit with us, and it's been a great partnership ever since. Can you expand a little bit on our partnership that we've developed over the last few years?
Well, it's one thing, a lot of people have a clarinet in their basement or in their attic, or they have a flute, but Elville does an unbelievable job of not only getting that clarinet donated perhaps to Elville, or I'm not certain of their sources, but they then have them refurbished, and that can be hundreds of dollars. Sometimes the cost to refurbish a flute is more than the flute itself. And so that's where Elville really goes the extra distance. Honestly, if Jeff said, I have some clarinets, and he handed them to me, it's really hit or miss. Sometimes it's like, this needs all new pads, and it's going to be $280 or $320, and some point my supervisor really won't pay for that. It's not that cost effective, and not that we would turn that donation away, but it makes it much more muddled. But Elville has the instrument donated, they have them professionally refurbished, and when they hand them to our school and our students, they are really, really play well. And so not only that, but Elville, if I may say, helps provide some funding for a guest artist every month. The job I have, I really need some helpers, some adult helpers, and so I am able to find some volunteers, but Elville Associates helps pay for a guest artist every month, and that's really fantastic. In addition to if you play a wind instrument, you know that you need reeds for the clarinet or for the saxophone, and Elville will help with those expenses too. And now we're in this beautiful facility. This is just a mile from Bates Middle School. We're here in Annapolis at this really lovely new multi-purpose space, it seems like, for Elville. And I'm already thinking about how we can perhaps record things here, or bring our students here. We have behind the camera here is a very professional recording engineer you can't see. But so that's a really very exciting new thing that you've come up with. Thank you.
No, of course, yeah. We're very blessed to be working with people like you, and it makes it easy to want to support organizations like you when there's people like you behind behind the music. So we're very fortunate to have worked with you for the last few years, and look forward to continuing to support you in any way possible, and with this studio, and as we continue to grow, we want to certainly be there to support you in certainly any way possible as we go forward. So,
and let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why is Elville so committed to the arts? And is it something about Steve, or where did this
that's a
come
great
about?
question. So you're interviewing me now. So, no, that's a great question. Mr. Elville was, I've known him for 10 years. I've worked at the law firm Elville and Associates for about 4.5. I became the executive director of the charity about 4 years ago. And Mr. Elville is very philanthropic in nature. He also has a love of music and wanting to give back to his communities in which we serve. So, and he also is a terrific musician, though he'll never say that to anybody if you ask him. So he took those two things, his love of music and being very philanthropic, and he created the Elville Center for the Creative Arts. The rest has really taken off. We work with a lot of schools and organizations that have a need for musical instruments that need to be refurbished, that need funding for field trips, that need supplies. There's a lot of schools out there that have budget cuts that, if an instrument breaks, it doesn't get replaced, or if reeds or instruments are broken or run out, they simply go without for the rest of the year. So we go in and try to understand the school's needs, and have them develop a wish list of things that would benefit them. And so that's what we do, and try to make a difference. We say make a musical difference in the life of a child. So. And that's what we've tried to do with Max and his students at Bates, and it's been great.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Well, on behalf of many students at Bates and beyond, and other schools, and thank you very much, and
No, it's our
thank you
pleasure.
for being so committed to the arts. You could have chosen so many other charitable branches. You could have chosen homelessness. You could have chosen all these other important areas, and of which music is absolutely important as well. And thank you for choosing the creative arts.
Oh, of course, yeah. Looking forward a little bit, you've been a music educator for a number of years. How do you see music education evolving in the years to come?
That's a great question. Well, I guess we're at a bit of a, you might say these are the best of times and these are the worst of times in a way, because, right now the absolute coolest thing for a kid is a smartphone and, and a video game. And, I think for music educators and parents, and we're becoming more and more digital. I don't know if you've seen the movie WALL-E.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of like, that's kind of where we're going, like automated things and automated cars, and pretty soon do we even have to move around, or why play an instrument? I think really loving acoustic music. I don't know about you, but when I go see the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, or sound, just like food can be gourmet food, sound can be very gourmet, where the quality of a clarinet sound or the quality of a oboe or violin has amazing powers. And it's not like, oh, that's just a clarinet sound. Well, that can be a clarinet sound that really touches you deeply. And, you know, the challenge, I mean, I guess I challenge everybody to remember how important live music is, acoustic music, you know, playing instruments, and not to lose sight of that. And, you know, like computers and now at the same time, you know, technology in music's very exciting too. And so I'm not negating that and all the great progress with technology in music, but to balance that and not just run away in the direction of technological music or digital music. I love my iPad. I listened to my iPad this morning, but I also love to play the piano. And I mean, do you think that we can move forward in music and in the arts, balancing the digital and the live? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, in your life, tell me, you know, in your house or in your home or taking your children in the world of the arts, what role would you say technology plays and what role would you say live performing arts?
Well, I know that I've taken my kids to see live performances. You know, not as much as I want to, but they've gone to see the Nutcracker. They have gone to see the BSO perform. So I've been very fortunate to be able to take them. At the same time, you know, they have expressed an interest in participating in chorus. They're in 5th and 3rd grades, so you know, they've expressed an interest in the chorus. My 3rd grader, my 5th grader has expressed an interest in playing the trumpet, so following in my footsteps, which is nice to think about. At the same time, we also have a piano, which gets played when not as much as I would like to. It gets played more when my wife's mother, who is a Peabody trained musician, comes down to play with them. I'd like to see that played more. That probably gets shoved aside a little bit because, you know, maybe the TV is on a little bit too much, or video games get played a little bit more than, you know, they should. So, you know, like you just said, that, you know, that balancing act of, you know, hearing that, that beautiful sound, acoustic sounds, and you know, creating a studious environment, as opposed to you know, just when you get home from school after a long day, you know, setting things aside and focusing on other things. But
and TV has its place. I mean, I
it does. Yeah.
And I know that feeling of coming home and wanting to just, you know, I like to put the sports on. So,
but it's I'm encouraged that you know, they have expressed an interest in wanting to, you know, participate in the music arts, and I think that they think it's cool to, you know, that you know, Dad's part of a charitable organization, and they see the instruments that I bring home, and you know, they want to take a look at them and touch them and, you know, see what they're like. So that's, you know, they think that's really interesting, and that's kind of opened up some avenues that they might not have gotten a chance to see before. So so it's
when I think of like dance, you know, I really I don't dance that much, but I think it's such an important thing. Can you imagine, you know, not having a chance to move around and dance, and so I really think one powerful arts experience can really change the whole direction of your life.
Sure.
And I remember for me, I was 16 years old, and my parents had helped me get a conga drum, right? Just one conga drum.
You're a great conga drummer.
What's that?
You're a great conga drummer. I've heard you. I heard you at the last concert.
Oh, thank you. And then we went to a party where there was a live band, and that band was from this arts community that I grew up in. And it was just like teenagers, but they were a pretty darn good band. I mean, not that... so all of a sudden they turned, and in this party with many people, they gave me a moment of soloing. Well, in jazz music and certain musics, a solo is a chance for one person to play while others are accompanying or in the background. So all of a sudden at this big party, out of nowhere, I had hardly just began playing, but they, in a very loving way, gave me the spotlight. And I just remember that, like, wow. And it was just something that I felt my own talent coming out, and with everybody's attention, I felt it was pulling my talent out. And it was a one moment that really changed me. And I can think of another moment, just a year or two later, with the Wild Lake High School Jazz Band. Well, Wild Lake's in Columbia, still a fantastic music program. And I was part of the Wild Lake High School Jazz Band. We went to the Columbia Mall, and this is 1977, and we played this theme from Rocky. And the same thing, the director gave me a moment to solo at the mall, with hundreds of people. And again, it was just a pivotal moment. So I try to give those moments now as a teacher to kids,
Yeah, I thought it was great. The last concert, the winter concert I went to, when you gave so many students the opportunity to solo, and I was shocked at how many students took advantage of that opportunity to get up there and perform solo.
Wow.
I thought that, back when I was in bands, both jazz band and concert band at Lochraven High School back in 1990 to 93, most people would back away from a solo opportunity.
Right.
But your students, probably almost half of the band got up there and performed solo, and I thought that was just so impressive. So I think that's probably you instilling your love of music, and giving them that opportunity. They want to embrace that opportunity as opposed to shying away from it. And I think that's just terrific. And to your point, you talking about soloing and just making that kind of a memory that stands out. My one solo that I did in concert band in 1992, I can't remember the piece it was, but you stand up there in front of the crowd, this huge auditorium full of people, and I had a solo that I did on my trumpet, and it was just one of the most memorable experiences of my entire high school career.
Really?
Getting up there and nailing that solo.
Right.
And to this day, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Really?
And it was so empowering, like you said, and to be able to do something like that and have a teacher. Ken Walton was my teacher, a wonderful man. So music educators can really be an important influence. All educators can be such an important influence in students' lives. So I certainly commend you for the work that you do. So
and there's some students at my school that music is like their home. Music is the place that. I think sometimes, and I remember this a little bit for me, Jeff, I would go to a certain class, I'd say, darn, I'm not very good at this. And then I'd go to another class and, I'm okay, but, and then I'd go to music, and I see that now, that there's some classes where the kids who are not very successful in other classes for various reasons, that is where they shine, And they talk about how we have multiple intelligences, right? It was Howard Gardner's theory of, if you rewind 50 years, they thought you were either smart or you weren't. But now they realize that you can be very smart in movement, kinesthetic. You can be very smart in mathematical or music. You have different intelligences. So that's part of the goal of a teacher, is to find those, those strengths.
Interesting. Well, thank you very much, Max. We really appreciate your time today. Thanks for all you do for your students in the community.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your partnership with the Elville Center for the Creative Arts.
It's only the beginning.
Oh, yeah, likewise. If people want to get in touch with you for any reason
course,
to learn
yeah.
more about Bates Middle School, its programs, and yourself, how could people get in touch with you?
Yeah, and also I have a professional jazz group that will will donate our services occasionally for certain events, community events and things, and of course we can also be hired. But you can contact me at my personal email, maxbeat, like a drum beat, B-E-A-T. So that's M-A-X-B-E-A-T, maxbeat@comcast.net. That's a good way to reach me, Jeff.
Very good. Well, thank you.
I hope this is the start of more conversations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we look forward to that. So to learn more about the Elville Center for the Creative Arts, or to donate, or how we can help support your school, contact me, Jeff Stauffer, Executive Director at the Elville Center for the Creative Arts, at 443-676-9691, or by email at jeff@elvillecenter.org, or you can reach us on the web at www.elvillecenter.org. Be sure to check back for updates about the Elville Center's first annual fundraiser, set for Saturday, September 15th at Oakland Manor in Columbia. Thank you very much.
Nice job, Luke.